all of these things kind of bring the joy aspect of it, you know, but it's also good to know the strife. So then when you're working with other women or black women, you know what that struggle actually looks like while you're working with them, and then you can complement and find the different things that you bring to a project together.
That strife and that joy, how do we juxtapose the two? Like, how is it that you deal with those two in this industry? Like, it was the best and the worst. When it's really bad and when it's really good. Like, when the joy comes, how does it feel? Or what makes it joy? I mean, I know you said that the people, but how are we maintaining in a world of strife and joy in the industry?
Well, I feel like the black females are doing that in life, most of them would say. So I say we bring that to any art form that we do. I guess for me, it's a battle to get films with black female leads or black male leads to the camera. Then you have kind of strife of sometimes I find having to also help and train some of the people I want in some of those positions as well. So you're also doing that as well as trying to make the project. And then, you know, you've got the caveats of a lot of industry that don't want to see black film flourish. So you're kind of fighting those industries and those people to get the film or the project to green light. And then you then get to a fight where you're in distribution and some territories don't want to buy black content. You know, so I think from that part, the creation part at the beginning is the most important part for me. It's like, where is this project going? Where does it sit, first of all? What station am I after? Then kind of work backwards and go, okay, right, how much money do I want to be making the project for? And is it going to be sellable in the market to the people I want to sell it to? And where is the best audience for it? So I kind of work backwards, and then I kind of go, okay, so now go into the markets. What is the market looking for? And is it something I want to make? And then I find my own kind of way through that jungle, and then go back to the scripts I've got or the ideas we have collectively as a team, and go, okay, right, we feel like this project is going to be the best one, because you give a lot of your life for the projects. You know, when we as producers, I'm sure you ladies will say, when we choose a project, we know that we're giving up time with our kids or family. We know that we're giving up our own personal finance because it's going to be hard. Some people, I've had some producers who've lost their houses from making films, you know, and then there's the joy side of it, which you get all of that going on. And I think it's important, though, for people to understand that part first, because then you can understand that when we do choose projects and we do choose to work with people, it's really important to us. It's important for us to find those films and get them to screen. It's important for us to find the industry. It's important for us to employ people that look like us and put them in front of the screen. So all of these things kind of bring the joy aspect of it, you know, but it's also good to know the strife. So then when you're working with other women or black women, you know what that struggle actually looks like while you're working with them, and then you can complement and find the different things that you bring to a project together.
Okay, thank you.
I think for me, as I think about my career, it's really big, and it's life also, to your point, it's just being a black woman living life. It's really focusing on discipline and like steadfastness and knowing your purpose. And your purpose could just be like my love for the project, but like sitting in that and not allowing the winds to move you. It's something that I'm practicing in life all the time. Like, okay, how can I stay grounded in this moment? Because it isn't always gonna go my way. It should, but it doesn't. And so how do I stay committed and focused, disciplined on whatever it is I'm trying to do? And that way, the strife doesn't hurt as much, right? Like, it's always gonna come. There's always gonna be people who are, you know, trying to kick you off your game or telling you no. But how do I stay focused? I can't let you make me take my eye off the ball. And then that way, the joy always comes because you're standing in who you are.
Center.
Yeah, I totally feel like the focus is very important because there is strength, there is joy, but at the very beginning, especially when I think about the representation of Black people in France, I think there is a lot of frustration. And so it's really hard to put joy in her work when we have so much frustration and such a lack of representation. So I feel like staying focused is the main thing.
Yeah, I think for me it's about balance. Like I think once I stepped into working in studio systems in America, which is vastly different and very demoralizing as a writer-director than it is doing your independent work. And I stepped into it because I wanted to do my nerdy passion projects, and I also wanted to make money as a writer-director. And so I was like, you know, I can earn these checks in the studios, and then I can go and make my passion projects. So for me, it's always a cross-balance of being like, are you still taking the time to make your nerdy passion projects? Because those nerdy passion projects sometimes are like an immersive installation art piece, but I can finance it and then supplement grant funding. Or my nerdy passion projects, I have a company, and we bring nonprofit art missions to the African continent, and so and allow for space to be created for that work to be seen and those voices to be heard. So those are my nerdy passion projects. So I'm like, okay, fine. They don't want to listen to me. Yes, fine. These notes are insane, because they're coming from white executives about Black art. But there's a centering that also is like, okay, how do I turn this into joy? How do I find a space where I can communicate and get what I need and also feel heard? And then, there's also another experience, which I just had the first one ever in the studio systems. There's you have to know where your core is. And I just had this one last month, and it was the most sad experience I've ever had. I wrote and directed this thing, and it was going to be put on for a ton of money. And I got into it was supposed to be shot we're going to cheat Ghana for South Africa. And in Ghana, and I was fighting for Ghana, and all of the notes I kept getting, and it was so hard because they were like, well, Ghana's not developed enough. Ghana can't create art that's worthy of this product. And I was like, I am the product of Ghana. My work is the reason I'm here, and that was created in Ghana. You bought it in Ghana. And it launched my career. So I know that's not true, but I kept trying to work with it. And then finally we kind of got down to crew. And when it came to crew, they gave me 30 plus interviews of all white South African crew. And I said, that's great, they're great, but none of them, I did all the interviews because you gotta play the game. I did all the interviews, I met some amazing people, but zero had any experience with Ghana or any information about Ghana. So I couldn't recreate Ghana in a country with people who didn't know that So I was like, listen, this is what I found in these interviews. And they came back and they were like, these are the only people that we will approve to hire. And I had to, and this is where you have to have that center and that team. So I made sure on my, I know we all hate agents and reps, but I love mine. I made sure that on my agents, when I was meeting with agencies, I wanted to make sure there was Black people on my team. So I called my agent. I was like, I just want to talk to you, just Black person to Black person who's been on the inside. And how do you handle this situation? Because I want to cry. How do I handle this? And, he gave me just the best advice, but it was supportive. It was an agent advice because he was like, you have to know where your center is because you can do this, but you might agree to something that you actually can't do. Because as an artist, I lost just not having people reflective. Sorry, of myself. I lost so much love for my own film. I was like, I can't show up to a crew and have nobody that looks like me. So, ultimately we kind of burned it down because I stuck my foot in the fire and said no, this is my sticking point. You either take me, you take my crew who have amazing credits and have done studio films, they don't come with nothing, or I walk, so we ended up walking. So it was a heartbreaking experience, but I will say, the light on the other side of that, because to get that much money behind a feature when a studio is putting that much money, you're kind of willing to say yes to a lot of things. So I was willing to say yes to a lot of things that already had crossed my lines. And I think the day after, I was so depressed. And my daughter was like, "Mommy," and I was like, okay. But I felt so much lighter. Like, I felt like a weight was lifted off of me. And that, like, a week later, the producer that I work with in Ghana, he was like, "Give yourself a week, mourn." And, like, I felt so inspired to rewrite and work on that piece in a week. Because it didn't feel like it was being... I knew that I could take it out. I got it back. My lawyers got my IP back. And I was like, okay, I'm excited because this story is something I actually feel passionate about. But it was definitely a really, first time, really hard experience in the studio system.
Girl.
But it was Black people that I found my joy in my community, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to cry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Well, we
and
certainly
nothing prepares you for
appreciate
that.
the heartfelt testimony, and we appreciate you sharing, because that's why we're here. We are here to tell our stories, to share our stories, and to figure out what it takes to get to your joy. Like,
Yeah.
you probably thought the joy was getting the project,
Yeah, yes.
right?
I was like,
And
oh
then
my gosh, finally.
in the end, the joy came when you put your foot down.